So what has been dominating discourse over the last couple of days has been the Bad Batch Season 3. I've made videos breaking down the role of Asajj Ventress, how she returned, we spoke about the escape of Omega and Crosshair, the role of Clone Force 99 in building up a clone rebellion, which I think is how Season 3 is going to end, and the role of bounty hunters. But today, we're going to be focusing on two very different topics, and we begin with tech. You guys know, and I've shared this opinion before, I think it would be so foolish to bring him back, and to confirm that somehow he survived. The emotional stakes going into the final season are so much more elevated when you realise anyone can die. But then it dawned on me, after having rewatched the trailer like 1,000 times, I think he is still alive, and we see him in the new trailer. That's right, my dear friends, this ominous figure, who I spoke about briefly yesterday, emerging from Wayland and commanding stormtroopers, is who many fans assume to be Crosshair, but it's not. Crosshair is living his day-to-day life as a prisoner inside of Mount Tantiss, and, at one point, it appears as though he and Omega escape. Now, unless this shot takes place later in the season if they're recaptured, they're pulling a sneaky and trying to deceive us. And there are a few clues that point to this being tech or a clone of tech. It is no surprise that the Empire has been fascinated with Clone Force 99's augmentations since Season 1, when Tarkin first put them to the test. And while they possess Crosshair's DNA, and now Omega's a prisoner for experimentation as well, I theorise they ideally want to study each member individually and their unique enhancements, despite shared DNA. And to this end, they keep reminding us of Tech's death. Even in the Season 3 trailer we see a flashback to his fall. I think the head of the Empire's Advanced Science Division, Dr Hemlock, had Tech's body recovered and sent to Wayland. And that's why Hemlock had his goggles. In Season 2 Episode 16, it's possible Tech was in a different room, but in the facility on Wayland nonetheless, when Omega runs into Crosshair, and just before the revelation she has a sister. Hemlock had to lie about Tech's death, because he couldn't let any clones get past his dubious research. Now back to this figure. A major clue is the similarity in the shape of the helmet by the mouthpiece. It looks to be inspired by Tech's original one. I think they're trying to deliberately throw us off by making us believe this is Crosshair, but my dear friends, don't be surprised if this is a Tech clone, or even Tech himself, reprogrammed with some kind of powerful inhibitor or brain adjustment. And so now, my dear Megalorians, moving on to our second Bad Batch theory. This one concerns a fan favourite clone division, who I think is going to have a pretty tragic demise, Delta Squad. Are we going to see the return of Scorch, but also Boss and Fixer? Probably not Sev, considering he was missing in action by the end of Republic Commando, even though that's not canon and they may readjust this. But some fans are adamant they saw Delta Squad in the trailer. Let's break it down. We saw Scorch in the first 2 seasons, and in the final season's trailer, we see that Delta Squad is working more closely with Dr Hemlock on some of the more experimental cloning projects. And not just this, it isn't just Scorch who's returned, but also Boss and Fixer, fan favourites from the Clone Wars and 2005's Republic Commando video game. Walking behind Palpatine and the elite Royal Guard, it's a big deal that Delta Squadron has this privilege, and while they don't sport their traditional colours, similar to Commander Cody's armour before he went AWOL, they had an Imperial repaint. What is so tragic is I don't think they're making it out alive. They're just as subject to experimentation, torture, death, because they're disposable. Once they've served their purpose, they'll be gone. It started in the first season, with Project Warmantle, the Empire phasing out the clones, and on the planet of Darrow, where Gregor defected, we saw that Scorch was one of 50 clone commandos involved in the training of the first generation of new stormtroopers. He was also, in Season 2, he was the one that stunned Omega unconscious so she could be transported to Mount Tantiss, and he was also part of recapturing the Zillo Beast who escaped. Scorch is one of the clone commandos in the know about some of the top cloning secrets that Sheev Palpatine is keeping a secret from the rest of the galaxy. I was so intrigued when I heard in the trailer Palpatine's voice, the urgency of him telling Hemlock whatever he needs, whatever resources, credits, they need to secure the future of the Empire. I'm so excited to get an inside look at Mount Tantiss, Wayland. As we know, Republic commandos were seen as incredibly valuable assets, who could train their new stormtroopers, but also be another level of defense for the Empire. Once they're not seen as useful though, it's all over, and I think that's a tragedy we're going to see. They're going to be discarded or used as subjects, one of the two. With any luck, Clone Force 99 can help them defect, but I don't think Scorch, Fixer or Boss are in those plans. And just before we finish, I want to highlight the fact that some of the best stories told in the first 2 seasons have been the defecting and rescuing of clones. It's a bittersweet and tragic story. Senator Ryo Chuchi is someone advocating for the rights and humanity of the clones who served for the Galactic Republic during the war, but it's a losing fight, if you pardon the pun. Clones who defected from the Empire are trying to empower one another in the face of Imperial adversity and a galaxy that increasingly sees them as worthless. And by the time of the Galactic Civil War, but a handful remain. One of these is Wolffe. Season 3 promises to show us how Rex saved him. This is a story that all fans of the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels are curious to see unfold. His appearance in the trailer is brief, but he is seen accompanied by several Imperial stormtroopers, and this seems to indicate at the start of the season he is still on the Empire side. I would say that along with Captain Rex, Wolffe is one of the most important clones across the timeline, because while Gregor dies in Star Wars Rebels, we don't know the fate of Captain Rex and Wolffe further down the line during the time of the New Republic and the Mandalorian. But just to return to what's going on in the Bad Batch, Rex is going to play a crucial role in the uprising of clones, which they do imply later in Star Wars Rebels is something the clones attempted. But with this comes a lot of heat. Mourning the loss of clone life even after the end of the war, it's likely that any clone defectors may try to rise against Imperial rule just based on everything they took from them, how they were chucked aside, discarded like a relic of the past. And another character to keep our eyes on in the course of Season 3, who might play a pivotal role from the inside, is Nala Se. Against her will, she was escorted to Mount Tantiss and is working as a cloner for the Empire. But it doesn't mean she can't sabotage from the inside, as much as she can. She's proven she has Omega's best interests at heart. If Omega and Crosshair do make it out, and if there is a Clone Uprising at the end of the season, I suspect she's probably going to lose her life, sacrificing herself to do what is right by her own creations, when Kamino was thriving in the prequel era. I'm so pumped to return to talking about Star Wars and doing episode breakdowns and getting into the nitty-gritty of every kind of theory and speculation you can imagine. But what do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts down below. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next video. May the Force be with you, always.